Welcome to the last keynote session of the conference, of this IMAV 2021 conference. And I have the privilege of introducing to the audience to one of the most recognized researchers in Mexico, who specializes on the field of unmanned aerial vehicles. So we have with us Rogelio Lozano. And Rogelio Lozano got his BSc degree in electronic engineering from the National Polytechnic Institute of Mexico in 1975. The Master in Science degree in electrical engineering from the Centro de Investigación y de Estudios Avanzados CINVESTAV, Mexico in 1977. And the Ph.D. degree in automatic control from the Laboratoire d'Automatica de Grenoble, France in 1981. He joined the Department of Electrical Engineering at CINVESTAV, Mexico in 1981, where he worked until 1989. He was head of the section of automatic control from June 1985 to August 1987. He has held visiting positions at the University of Newcastle, Australia, from November 1983 to November 1984. Visiting position at NASA Langley Research Center from 1987 to 88, and Laboratoire d'Automatica de Grenoble, France from February 1989 to July of 1990. Since 1990, he is a CNRS Research Director at the University of Technologie of Compiègne, France, and he was Associate Editor of Automatica in the period of 1987 to 2000. He is Associate Editor of the Journal of Intelligent and Robotic Systems since 2012, and Associate Editor in the International Journal of Adaptive Control and Signal Processing since 1988. He has coordinated or participated in numerous French projects dealing with UAVs. He has organized 2 international workshops on UAVs, IFAC Red US 2013 and Red US 2015. He participates in the organization of the annual international conference, ACUS, the International Conference on Unmanned Aerial Systems, since 2010. Since 2008, he is the head of the joint Mexican-French UMI 3175 CNRS, and his areas of expertise include UAVs, mini-submarines, exoskeletons, and automatic control. He has been the advisor or co-advisor of more than 35 PhD theses and published more than 130 international journal papers and 10 books. And on the top of all of that, I have to say that Rogelio has always supported the community. I remember in 2017, we organized a workshop on control and vision for autonomous drones here at INAUE. And we asked him to open the conference, and he accepted and came to deliver a very nice keynote. So it is nice to have him again. It is unfortunate that we didn't manage to run the conference physically, so because of the pandemic, but at least with the magic of internet, we have him with us. So without any further delay, Rogelio, thank you very much for accepting to deliver this talk, and please go ahead. The stage is yours.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Jose, for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be with you. So let me, I'll put the slides right away of this, of the talk. Let's see. Let's see.
Great, we can see them.
Okay, so we are in the first slide. Okay, well, this what I wanted to was to present the subject of this subject was the subject of a PhD thesis that was presented this year in Mexico. In this, as Jose was saying, this is the LAFMIA. Well, used to be the what is called today LAFMIA in CINVESTAV, the Center Center for Research and Advanced Studies of the National Polytechnic Institute in Mexico City. So Jonathan was is the main he got the PhD this year, and this is a joint work also with Sergio Salazar. So the topic is as follows. As you know, basically, you certainly know the quad rotors that have in the past, I don't know, 15, 20 years appeared and are now very popular. And at least, I mean, in the small size, they are even more popular than the classical helicopters for small prototypes. And one of the reasons for this, and let me put the next slide. Okay, as I was saying, the quadcopters gain popularity. In my point of view, one of the reasons is that that quad rotors are mechanically simpler than helicopters. So those of you that have tried small classical helicopters know that they are. When you have when you drop the helicopter, when it crashes, it takes a lot of time to rebuild the helicopter, because there are many mechanical pieces that get damaged. So it is. I remember when we started, playing with a small helicopter, and then when you start learning, you crash, and then there's many pieces that like for instance the main axe, it bends. Of course, the plates broke, but that's not the most difficult problem. But then what is called the swashplate, it also breaks, and so you want to repair a small helicopter after a crash. It will take a few days. And then on the other hand, quadcopters, they are simply, you basically have the frame that never breaks. It's hard to break. And then you have four motors. And basically, when it crashes, basically you have to change the blades. The motors, they don't break. They don't break, and then it will take a few minutes to repair a quadrotor. Of course, helicopters have some advantages. Since they have a large rotor that covers a large area, then they produce more thrust. Okay, and then that explains why they have longer flying times. So a helicopter can fly longer than a quadrotor. That's my understanding. Of course, quadrotors. To control a quadrotor, you basically have to deal with changing the speed, the angular velocity of the rotors, and for that, unfortunately, you require the rotors to be not so big, because if they are big, it would take a long time to change the angular velocity of the rotor. So it will be a rotor. If you try to build a quadrotor, with large blades, then it's going to be as the blades get larger and larger, you will run into problems because you will not be able to control it easily. So there's a trade-off in the size of the blades. So the idea in this paper was to go back. I mean, the main idea was to go back to the classical helicopter structure, that is a large rotor, and then a small the small tail rotor to control the jaw, basically. But try to solve the problem of the. I mean, to try to have something that is mechanically simpler than a classical helicopter, so as to try to, well, to see if we can get a different configuration that is perhaps in the middle, in between a quadrotor and a helicopter. Okay, that is the purpose of this work. So so how does it work? I mean, you have a photo here on your right. You have the motor, and then these white pieces made of plastic. Well, yeah, plastic, and then it has. I mean, as you can see, there are some. They are called hinges. I mean, this piece here is called hinge, and it's skewed. I mean, so we'll see another figure so that you understand what is going on. So these black pieces are the blades, but the blades can turn depending on the angular velocity and the well, I'll explain this in a moment. So and that's all. I mean, this is the mechanism. As you can see, is rather simple as compared to a conventional swashplate. I'll describe later what is a swashplate. This control technique started some years ago, but for some reason, I mean, there has not been a lot of development. So that's why we started to work on this area. Let's see. So okay, you have here. This is a rotor that is being controlled. So well, the first, let me start again. Okay, so this is, I'll start again. Let's see. Okay, so let's start with it. This one is rotating at a constant angular velocity. And this is, as you can see in this figure. And in the figure below, the rotor is turning, changing the speed. As you can see that it slows down a little bit, and then okay. So this we will use this phenomena. We will modulate the angular velocity, and then here is again the skewed hinges. This mechanism is such that that when you accelerate the rotor, the blade goes forward or backward, and then the inclination of the blade changes. So this is what replaces the standard. Okay, here we have in your left we have a classical swashplate. So here are the blades in this. I'm sorry, let me go back. Okay, here are the blades, and this part here, all this part is called a swashplate. So with these black pieces here, the blade pitch is changes, okay? And here, this mechanical piece goes, is moved by a servo mechanism. So basically, you have 3 servos, one moving this piece, one moving this other piece, and there is another one that moves the whole this part here up and down. Okay. So okay, that's what it's called. This is just classical Swashplate, and this is what we're using in the helicopter that we are building. So as you can see, this is just a very, these pieces have been made in the lab with just, it is made in aluminum, and it doesn't break. It's very strong. And these are the blades, okay? So we're trying in a way to get back, this property of the quadrotors that are robust with respect to when in a crash, it doesn't get damaged. Let's see. So here is an explanation on how, when the angular velocity, when you change the angular velocity, these the blades go back, move backwards or move forward, and that because of the way this pivot is working, the pitch of the blade changes. Okay. And then on one side, for instance, let's see. Well, on one side, when you accelerate the rotor, the blade pitch increases, and on the other side, the pitch blade decreases, and this produces like a pitch momentum. Okay. So this is just a flow chart for the virtual cyclic swashplate that we have made. So here you have so the helicopter will have the standard tail rotor, which is here. So this is to control the yaw displacement. And then the main rotor will be as here with this virtual swashplate. And then it requires some additional thing as we require to measure the rotor position. Okay, so we include a magnetic encoder. Okay, this is in a standard quadrotors or classical helicopters. You don't require this device to measure the position of the rotor, but in view of the way this swashplate works, we require to know the exact position of the rotor. And then, of course, there's the microcontroller, and then the rest of the equipment is more standard. This is just to tell you the range of the frequencies in which these things are working. So the autopilot is working at the range of 50 Hertz. Here's again the device that measures the position of the rotor that works on Hall effect. And of course, we're using pulse width modulation to change the to replace the to produce the pitch control of the rotor. So here's again the helicopter diagram, the forces, etc. You have here the force generated by the tail rotor, and then the rest. It looks like a standard helicopter. It's just that the Swashplate has been replaced. And of course, as I was saying, the tail rotor is controlling the yaw of the helicopter, as in a classical helicopter. But here, the virtual Swashplate is controlling the pitch angle and the roll angle of the helicopter. So, well, this is the way that the signals, as in a classical helicopter, you have, of course, you have then three signals basically. One is the average thrust of the blades, and then you introduce these sinusoidal signals on the blades. So let's see, just to produce the whole blades disc to move forward like here, or you can also move with this virtual Swashplate. You can move both. You can produce a pitch momentum as well as a roll momentum. Okay. And here are some experiments. So here is this is the first experiment of this classical helicopter. This is in CINVESTAV area. Some of you may recognize the Chiquihuite hill. And this is a second flight of this. So perhaps it doesn't fly as well as a classical helicopter, but this little helicopter is very robust, and then Jonathan has flied this and has crashed several times, and he repairs the helicopter quite, very fast as compared to a classical helicopter. More recently, students have been working in a different configuration. I will try to show it to you. Let's see. Okay, here are some. This is instead of having the classical configuration of a helicopter. Let's see. I'm not sure if you can see this. Let's see. Okay. Sorry for the. Let's see.
This work introduces
no, this is not what I wanted to show you. Okay, well, here is another video of this is a helicopter in tandem that has the two rotors have this virtual Swashplate, and here is as you can see, they are controlling the pitch. This is a very recent work. but I mean, they have not yet been able to fly this tandem helicopter. And this is just for the pitch control. And there is another, let me see if I can show you. This was not working. Let's see what. Okay, here it is. This is just to show you. This is again the tandem helicopter. There are two rotors, and you'll see some movement of the blades of the rotors. So here both rotors are moving to the left and to the right, and they also can move in opposite direction, like here. This is to control the yaw. So as you can see, by modulating the angular velocity, you can change you can produce some moment either to move the pitch or to move the roll or the yaw. Sorry. Okay, let me go back to this. So it's, basically, this is what I wanted to show you. So, Jose, if I think we can, I mean, if anybody has a question, I'll be happy to try to answer.
Thank you, Rogelio. If anybody from the audience here in the virtual room, if you have a question, please, you can send it to me in the chat. To me, the very first question I have, and might be a very silly one, is just because you showed this last vehicle with the two rotors. So what about a quadcopter? Would that be possible? This is not necessary. I mean.
Okay, yes, sure. Yeah, well, I suppose it's possible. I think that, well, we also had in mind the following thing. I mean, very often these quadrotors are used I mean, you are used to carry a camera. You want to get images of a place. And then one thing that some of you that have been work with these quadrotors have noticed that the camera moves a little bit. So so sometimes, I mean, the noise produced by rotors increases as the number of rotors in the prototype. I mean, if you have 6 rotors, you will have some more frequencies, more noise. So in a way, so there's always a trade-off, I suppose. I mean, in some sense, we were interested in reducing the number of rotors and dealing with a main rotor that has large blades. So it's I suppose it depends on the applications, but of course you can also try to use these ideas. Yeah, you could perhaps use these ideas with more rotors, like 4 rotors, and each one of them you can use a virtual Swashplate to increase the number of possibilities. I mean, you have plenty of control inputs to move that's another type of application where you could a standard quadrotor has just you can, as I was saying in the beginning, you want to I mean, you basically change the angular velocity of the rotors to produce a pitch moment or roll moment. But if you use this this virtual Swashplate, perhaps you could, I mean, you can have large rotors. Yeah, I think it's not so silly. Your question is not so silly. Maybe there are some possibilities to have some properties of a prototype.
Well, I was then thinking of a second option, which is what about this type of hybrid vehicles, you know, like the ones that take off vertically and then they transition into fixed wing.
Yes,
So,
that's another interesting possibility. I remember, well, I had another student working on an airplane that was supposed to be a hybrid in the sense that it will take off vertically, and then after transition it will fly as an airplane. And one of the things we were, I mean, you may have different configurations, and the configurations we wanted to have was to have an airplane with will have a the main wing will rotate.
mhm.
It will move. I mean, you in order to take off vertically, you will have the wing with the rotors on the top, two main rotors, and then you will take. I mean, the prototype will take off like that. But one of the problems was that with two rotors, we don't have enough pitch moment, and then we had to add. Well, not so. I mean, one possibility was to add a third rotor in the tail, and the other possibility was to use the ailerons on the wing to produce pitch moment. So it was and as you was just suggesting, we could perhaps use I mean these virtual Swashplates. We could have like two main rotors in the wing that are with these virtual Swashplates, and then this will generate some extra moments, and it will be useful in the takeoff part, because then you have additional moments. Yeah, that's another idea that in the future somebody has to explore. I don't know if I would have a student on that, but that's a possibility.
Okay, thank you, Rogelio. So please, for the members of the audience, send your questions, and in the meantime, I keep asking. I have the opportunity to ask you these things while we wait for somebody in the audience to ask something. But what about the scalability of this approach? Because you are showing this in this micro helicopter, but can it go in larger sizes?
That's so far. I mean, well, as you can see, I mean, if you look in what is, there are very few prototypes like this in the community. There's very few. I mean, maybe there is a reason for that. I mean, the development it always takes time, and perhaps there are. I mean, perhaps there's these first prototypes are a bit noisy. There are vibrations. They might have some. Also, something that I have to say, to point out, is that there's still we still need to study the energy that is used to produce this. I mean, when you use this virtual Swashplate, you move the rotor, you modulate the angular velocity, and this takes, of course, energy from the battery. So it has to be. I mean, it's something that has to be taken into account. So it's this. You get some advantages, but they are not free. So you pay for this in terms of energy. Perhaps this prototype needs more energy. I mean, it's perhaps more robust than a classical helicopter, but the price to be paid is that you have to, this modulation requires energy from the battery. Okay, and now the scalability, I really don't know. There's not that as far as I know, there are no large helicopters of this type. But on the other hand, it's interesting that this helicopter is mechanically very robust as compared to the standard helicopter.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that's something that is interesting, because then, well, at least for these small sizes, you can crash your helicopter and then repair it in one day or in a few minutes. You will only have to change the blades. So that's a big difference with respect to a classical mini helicopter.
Yeah, certainly. That's why I thought your presentation was very suitable to the conference, because this conference specializes on micro air vehicles. That's the main topic. It has been the main topic for 12 years now. And in fact, you should know the Black Hornet Nano vehicle, this very small helicopter as well, right?
Yes.
So I was thinking that maybe that was your niche, like to develop something like that vehicle. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I never understood how that little helicopter worked, really. I just knew that it was very expensive.
Yeah.
And that not anybody could buy it. I mean, certainly not a university could not buy it. It's only military uses.
Yeah.
Very expensive. And I don't know. I don't remember. I looked at them. I don't remember. I don't think they have a standard Swashplate, but I don't know if they have this type of virtual Swashplates. It's a good question, because we thought about it a lot, and maybe they have some sort of virtual Swashplate. But there is a lot of not a lot of things are known, because it's a military application. And so as you can see, as in your questions, there's the question of building larger prototypes with this technique, or smaller prototypes. In both sizes, there's something interesting to be found.
Yes, especially because of this thing of the energy. I guess if you go to the micro world, or even the nano world, perhaps you get certain advantages. And I was thinking of that vehicle in particular, because the developers of that vehicle, they were part of the IMAV community for some years. As far as I remember the stories, they started out in this conference. They came to this conference many years ago to show their prototype. And then we saw them in France in 2017, when the IMAV was organized in Toulouse, France. The CEO of the company, he came over, and actually he showed the vehicle. It was, I had never seen it in real life, and he showed it. But as you are saying, like, it was just showcasing the vehicle, no secrets unveiled. But yeah, this one reminded me a lot of that type of vehicle.
Yeah, maybe there's something. I never understood how it worked. It was very small, and you could not see a standard Swashplate. So it was not clear.
So about sorry.
There was a lot of secrecy about it, I think.
Yeah, the only thing that we knew is that it was costly, was very expensive.
Very expensive, yes.
Yes. So you mentioned this issue with the cameras when you were explaining the vibrations. if you have one rotor or multiple rotors. And in this case, are you planning to test how a camera would behave with a drone like this?
With this prototype, I mean, there's another student is, as you see in one of the videos, there's two students. One is Jonathan, who got his PhD, and the other one is a new student in a master program. And so what we were planning was, I mean, we think that as you could see, they are working on a tandem configuration, and this configuration is supposed to be even more have longer flying times, and we wanted to get something that will fly for longer times, and that's the master thesis of this student that just started. And but we're more working on. So there's another video where they are trying to make it fly, and so far is not working so well, and so it needs some more time, some more development. But what I want to say is that at this moment we don't have a prototype that is working properly, so that we can put some cameras. We're not yet there.
Yeah, I was thinking of that because, well, the first application, the first obvious application for external users is just to put a camera on board, right, to get some footage. Sure. But then I was also thinking, since you were talking about helicopters, whether how would it work in terms of the control theory that we have used if the vehicle had to lift something, like cable suspended loads or or a robotic arm. I don't know.
I mean, my first answer would be that it has, as quad rotors and helicopters. This new prototype has again the same controllers, the same control inputs. I mean, the total thrust. You have one total thrust, and you have three couples, like the pitch, roll, and yaw couple. So basically, it would seem that you could use the same type of control algorithms. But of course, if you go more in detail, then there are new issues that may appear because the control is performed differently because of this angular velocity modulation. But that's going more deeply, more inside the prototype. But from outside, it looks basically the same.
I see. Well, that's a big advantage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the main advantage, I would say, is that it's very mechanically robust. And then that's for at least for quad rotors, in my point of view, that was one of the main things that made that we have quad rotors everywhere now.
Yeah.
And with classical helicopters, you don't get the same thing because it takes a lot of time to repair.
Yeah, you're right. I remember when I began working with drones, and some friends actually told me about them. They were very excited because they got one of these small helicopters. And then they were showing off basically their flying skills, because controlling one of these helicopters is very complicated.
Yeah,
so I think it's quite similar to what happened with computers. Like at the beginning, computers were like only for people who specialize on how to use a computer, and then eventually it was for everybody. And I think the quadcopters they became like that. They are like the mobiles of of aerial vehicles, because then everybody could fly a quadcopter.
Sure.
Right. So it was not easy, and still I cannot fly a helicopter. I haven't learned the skills, whereas I can fly very easily quadcopters.
That is true. There's many people that can fly quadrotors, and they cannot fly a standard helicopter. It's different.
So that made me think of if you had to organize a competition around this topic, because in the IMAV, we have the conference, but really one of the most important aspects of this event are the competitions, the indoors, outdoors competitions. It is unfortunate that we didn't manage to organize it this year here in Mexico. We got everything, like we got the arenas and we got the, the large place for the outdoors competition. But well, unfortunately, because of the pandemic, we didn't manage to. But if you had to design a challenge around this topic, what would it be? Or what would you like to see?
Well, one of the main things is about flying time. I mean, how to get a device, a prototype that flies longer.
Endurance.
With endurance, yes, that's the main. And of course, well, in our case, is mechanical simplicity, but that's it's hard to. It's something that is important, but it's hard to put in a contest. But yeah, endurance will be one thing.
And for course, this, yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah, and of course, simplicity in a way should be also. I mean, it's good to have a simple prototypes that can be repaired quickly and are not very costly.
Yeah, I think that is something interesting to look at, because as you mentioned, if you crash something, it would be very catastrophic, but then what matters is how quickly you can refurbish the whole thing and make it fly again. Because we may want to think of real scenarios where maybe, I mean, the most popular one is search and rescue, right? Something happened, an earthquake or something like that, and then you fly drones around the disaster area. And if the drones, because of the conditions of the environment, they crash or something happens to them, they get damaged. And if you manage to recover them, you could fix them quickly and reuse them, because otherwise they become expensive toys, right? You try to use them for something real, and if you lose them, then people won't want to use them because they will be afraid of losing them and just money lost.
So that is true. I mean, that is the secret of the quadrotors. I mean, many students started working on aeronautics very quickly, and it wouldn't be possible with a classical helicopter. Of course, a classical helicopter is also a little bit more dangerous because it has this main rotor that is larger, and you have to be careful. And it's well, I remember some years ago, when I started working on UAVs, I bought a large helicopter, a Vario helicopter with a combustion engine, and it was, I mean, the student is now working somewhere in the north of Mexico, in Laguna, and his name is Zul, Alejandro Zul. And I remember that in order to get ready to make a flight, and when I say flight, it was really not on a platform that will only allow the helicopter to move up and down and then turn around. So it was a very limited flight. But even in that case, in order to get the helicopter ready to fly, I will need half an hour checking all the connections, all the screws and all that. I had to check that everything was tight enough. So it is during the day, I remember planning and putting my mind and saying, I have to do this. So it takes a lot of time in a classical helicopter, because you have to check the vibrations tend to, so the screws, I mean, you have to tighten again because of the vibration. So it is if you don't want to have an accident, you have to be very careful, and you have to be a hobbyist. I mean, have a lot of experience with a helicopter. You cannot just go buy one and fly it. You'll have an accident. See, so even I remember we took even to put this helicopter together. It was like what? I don't know. We used to work at the weekends, and it took us like 4 or 5 weekends. So it takes a lot of time, and you have to check all this. I remember I even had one of the screw that I had to check in the tail. You don't see it. I mean, it was very very hard to see. You will get access to the screw only when the position of the rotor was some specific one. So I forgot to check it. And then one day in this platform we had the tail that broke because because this screw was loosened, and then introducing the mechanism, and then the rotor was stopped, and then the whole tail twisted. So it has a lot of mechanisms. So as when you see a simple quad rotor, it's a huge difference.
Yeah, definitely. I remember when I was doing my postdoc in the UK, we worked with a company called Blue Bear, and we did some experiments outdoors with an hexacopter. And before flying, they had to connect to the GPS, I guess, for the stability of the control of the autopilot. And we had to wait for some minutes, but really like maybe more than 10 or 15 minutes sometimes. And they would tell me, oh, it is because it's connecting to the satellites. It uses this very nice but old technology with satellites, but then it gives us very good positioning. And it was okay. So as you said, I mean, it's not that as extreme as what you are saying, but to me, every time we had to go outside to do some tests, we had to wait.
Sure.
And now it is very easy. You just take off and that's it.
Yeah, it has changed.
It has changed quite a lot. So with that in mind, I would like to ask you a final question before we say goodbye, because I think you have a lot of experience in this field and you have seen the field, how it has changed over time. So what do you think is going to be the future of this field in terms of UAVs, but especially in this case, in the case of micro air vehicles? If you could share with us your thoughts on this.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's a very hard question. I mean, I have several students working on different fields, and what can I say? I mean, I know that companies are trying to get again the main. I mean, I have my son works in this area too, and the companies ask him to get prototypes that fly longer times. That's and that are how do you say? I mean, easy to use. I mean, for instance, very often, I mean, companies try to sell not just quad rotors, not necessarily quad rotors, but airplanes or wings. Wings are really inexpensive. So, and one of the well, the thing is, I'm very inexpensive. I mean, you buy a wing, and they are also robust, and you can fly them. I mean, you need a little bit more skills, with a wing than with a quad rotor. But one of the things that in order to improve the sails of the wings, you need that they are easy to be used, and then very often once they are in the air, it's more easy to control them. But taking off or launch, I mean, or how do you say? I mean,
Landing.
Landing is a big problem.
It's tricky. It's tricky, yeah.
It's tricky. Launching is not so hard. I mean, you can. It's not so hard, but landing it takes some more skills from the people that buy this, and some people work on. They're trying to develop techniques so that you can land these wings or in general airplanes in a very short area. That's a challenging question. How do you do that? And it's like I mean, of course, some of us have been working on hybrid airplanes that can take off vertically, that can land also vertically, but they are more costly. So when you talk to an enterprise, what they don't want to see many rotors. They don't want to see many servos around. So it has to be extremely simple, and still they would like this. I mean, they wouldn't sell. For instance, well, I mean, I've been telling this around, but some people will not like it. But I mean, in our laboratories, very often, I have done this also with my students. We introduce rotors in the wing, many rotors, so that you can take off vertically and then move as an airplane after a transient. But in the world of the industry, this is not, apparently they are not interested, because it takes, I mean, it has to be simple. So there's this trade-off, and so that's a challenging thing, because well, quad rotors, I think, I mean, I don't see how they will change, but the airplanes, I mean, the airplanes are also very useful because they can cover a larger area, larger than for a quad rotor. But then the problem is landing. You require a large space. So getting something in the middle, I mean, making airplanes or wings that can land in a short area is a challenging problem that I think some people will address this in the future.
Definitely, and one of the things that I thought about this subject is that I mean, with the issues of landing, taking off, endurance, you know, like the time you spend to get from one place to another, and you might run out of battery, and then when you arrive at the place that you are interested at, you have no battery. Sure. But then what about motherships, right? If you take a larger drone that carries all these type of small drones, like the one that you have presented today, because then you save energy trying to reach the point that we are interested at, because then you just deploy them, they do their tasks. But you are right, if they break or if something happens, then the idea is that if they are cheap, you can recover them. Not only that, you can fix them and reuse them. So it would be a matter of how do you do the recovery, right? Because to deploy them would be easy, I think, but to recover them, that's the issue.
Yes.
Great. Well, Rogelio, it was a pleasure to talk to you. I think the audience will find quite interesting this work that you have presented. I personally like it a lot. I didn't think of it, to be honest. I didn't know this type of work. Coming from the robotics field, perhaps we don't worry too much about these issues, these design issues. And here at the IMAV, we have people specialized on that, and they have insisted quite a lot that not everything is autonomous flight with intelligent behavior. Design is also a very important side of the field. And I think you have proved them right. So thank you very much again for this opportunity and for your support. We will send you a virtual certificate for your participation. And I hope we can see you very soon.
Very well. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank
My
you.
pleasure.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care.